Well, hello, and welcome to New Mommy at 40 podcast, where we hold space for those entering or currently in parenthood at an seasoned stage of life, their 40s. I'm your host, Victoria. Whether you're new here or visiting us again, thank you for stopping by. Come on in, put up your feet, and enjoy being in the company of someone who gets you and the amazing and exhausting journey you've taken on. While you wait for our guest today, click on that subscribe or follow button so you don't miss a future episode. Right now. Oh, and follow us at New Mommy at 40 on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. All right, here we go. It didn't happen in my 20s. Who cares? Now I've got all this fancy wisdom to share. Hey, I've got this baby, you're getting the best of me, 'cause I'm a new mommy at 40. Not on the wall. Great. In April of 2020, the world got to know a beautiful and resilient woman's emotional and heart-wrenching story. Newly diagnosed with COVID-19 while being 6 months pregnant and unable to breathe on her own, she was put into a medical-induced coma only to wake up many days later as a new mommy to a very premature baby. To me, she was Jo, the woman I admired from work, a then 39-year-old rock star who knew that she was meant to be a mommy and that her baby was waiting to meet her. She left tradition and societal expectations at the door and designed her own path to motherhood. That's why this episode is called An Empowered Single Woman's Road to Motherhood and Her Triumph Over COVID. So, most of the world will know this name. That's Zion in the back, right on cue. Don't change a thing. I like her. I like hearing her. So most of the world may recognize your name because of how Zion came into the world at the height of the COVID pandemic. We'll get to know her a little bit differently, so to speak, in the way that I know her as my friend and former coworker, and get some updates of her and Zion. But I just want to say welcome to Johanna Mendoza Choncay.
Thank you.
Did I say it?
Nice.
Johanna Mendoza Choncay. Hey!
Yeah. At the middle name and see how you can do.
Okay. Well, no, they don't need to know all the government names.
I'm just kidding.
No, they don't need to know all the government names. I will practice it though as soon as we're done with this call. with this chat.
That's funny.
How are you, Jo?
I am good. I'm good. The year just started. So far, so good.
So far, so good, right?
I mean, like with the past 2 years, we've been wanting every year to zoom by. When is the year over? When is this year? But the year's been good so far. So yeah, I can't complain.
Yeah, no. Well, you're not a complainer. Okay, let's get that right. Let me tell you about this lady, my friends listening. She is one of the strongest cookies I know, and I've known her to be someone who really doesn't let a lot bother her. You feel like someone that pretty much can weather the storm pretty well. And if it gets to the point where you are complaining or upset, it's taken a lot to get you there. Am I right?
I am. Yeah, I don't get upset easily, but when you do get me, you'll know.
Well, that's why it's even probably more scary for the person that has gotten you upset, because you are so with the flow, zen, namaste, cool-headed person. So
there's that air sign in me.
Yeah. And that's why when you made the news last year, I just couldn't help but wonder how you are dealing with this. So Jo, let's hear from you, because there's so much more to you than this story, but I do think that it definitely cements who you are as a person and how you can overcome things. Bring us back to Zion's coming into this world.
How back do you want me to? Because I can simplify this. There's a long story. So
yeah.
How back do you want me to go?
Well, you know what? How many months were you when you found out you had COVID?
Yeah, I was 6 months. 6 months pregnant. I remember I was going for a routine check, and actually I was going to get my papers filled out for my leave because I couldn't work anymore. And it was so busy at the doctor's office because it was just when this whole COVID thing started.
Can imagine.
And they were brushing me off because they're like, who cares about papers for your pregnancy?
We have a pandemic on our hands.
I know.
People are dropping like flies. And
I know. And it's like, and I was like, no, I have a cough. And then they were like, you have a cough. And forget it. The whole mood changed. And then they started asking me all these questions. And I'm like, yeah, I have a cough. I have this. Mind you, I did have a cough, but I wasn't feeling ill. But I just wanted to be seen.
Right. Yeah, I've been there.
And so they came into the room all decked out, with their gowns, their masks and all. And then they gave me a test. And then I was at home. And 2 days after, they called me and they were just like, just so you know, you tested positive for COVID. And I was not really alarmed. I was like, okay, well, this is going to be like a flu. I went through a really hard pregnancy that I was sick a lot. So I was like,
so prior to this, you had already had complications.
Yeah. So I was like, I handle so much already. I can handle this. That was my mentality. I did start feeling a little ill, but I was like, this must be allergies since I suffer from seasonal allergies. I was like, okay, allergies in play too. I'm congested. And then I stayed home and I was just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And then the doctor told me, they were like, if you feel ill, just go to the hospital. And honestly, when I started feeling a little more ill, I was actually scared to go to the hospital because the pandemic, it was just getting worse. And you hear in the news that, and I'm like, and then in retrospect, I'm like, I should have just gone. I mean, I had COVID already. And that's why everybody's scared to get.
Yeah, but it was just, what it is like people were afraid to go to hospitals at the time. It was like you were going to ground zero of the pandemic. It's like, am I going to get worse? I don't know. Am I going to get reinfected?
Right. And then, but also I just didn't want to catch other things on top of COVID. So I was just like, I was nervous to go to the hospital. With the help of a friend doctor, I was taking care of myself at home. She would FaceTime me all the time and check up on me. And it came to a point where I woke up one morning and I was like, I can't breathe. It's okay, Mama. And then so my roommate at the time, I got her. I was like, we need to call the ambulance. And then that was it. That was March of 2020. I was taken to the hospital. And right away they told me that you do not look good. I was like, yeah, I
don't feel good either.
Yeah. We might have to intubate you. And if we intubate you, there's a possibility that we would have to take the baby out. Mind you, I was just 6 months pregnant. And I freaked out. And I'm calling my sisters and everybody. And, everybody's response is like, no, that's the worst case scenario. That won't happen. That's the worst case scenario. And then the next thing they're like, we're going to have to intubate you. You're not getting any better. Right away when they told me they're going to have to intubate me, they literally took me to a room. And it was like a room. It wasn't even like one of the patient rooms. It was just like a room. That's how busy the hospital were. And I just texted my sister, hey, I'm going down under what?
I'm going down under.
That. I think I did. I'm going down under whatever they decide. Just make sure that the baby survives. Whatever happens, just make sure the baby survives. And I told the doctors that as well. And so, yep. They intubate me. They put me in medical induced coma. They intubate me, and
what does that mean? So let's break it down. So they intubate you, meaning your oxygen obviously was obstructed. Like you could not breathe on your own.
Correct. Yeah, they gave me some supplemental oxygen, but it wasn't working external.
Wow.
And then it wasn't working, so they had to intubate me. And with that, they had to put you in medical induced coma, I guess, because that's what they did to me. Wow. And then after that, 10 days later, I woke up. There's a lot that happened in between, of course. But 10 days later, I woke up, and the funny thing is, like, it's funny living through something like that, right? Just because you're the one who lived through it, but after everything, when everybody was telling me their side of the story, I was able to put the whole story together and exactly what was going on. Because when you're out of it, you don't know.
Yeah.
All you know is when you wake up and you're just like, oh shit, what's going on?
Yeah. So what?
I just missed 10 days out of my life.
Yeah. So what? So, I mean, I would have been freaking out in short. For you to be that calm about, look, just take care of this baby, whatever you do, that is, that I can identify with, because I think I would be too.
No,
but everything else, like, you had no idea.
Yeah, but this is just in hindsight. Like, now I can talk about it. Cool Comic Collective.
Okay.
In the midst of it, I think no matter how cool and Comic Collective you are, you're just scared shitless because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Especially when you're pregnant and you're not just about yourself. It's about another human being growing inside of you. So I freaked out once they would take me to put me in a coma. I was shaking, but I only had time to text my sisters, and that's why I did that. I didn't have time to call anybody.
Wow.
So yeah. And then of course, when I woke up from the coma, it took a few days to kind of grasp what's going on. And because you go get intubated, you're pregnant, and then you wake up and you're like, you're not pregnant anymore. And there's like, a big scar in your midsection.
Wow.
So
I cannot imagine.
It's all very bizarre. And then if I tell you like some of the stories, and oh my God, it's a lot. It was a lot. But how did you find out?
I'm pretty sure one of my parents called me and said, oh, I think one of your flight attendants, she was in the hospital and she had a baby. She hasn't been able to see her. It's all over the news. And then I went on Facebook, and lo and behold, there was all this, like, I saw your face, because I don't really watch the news much. I read like newspapers, and I see your face, and I'm like, oh my goodness, not Joe, because I know what this baby means to you and how much you wanted her and how you were. I mean, when we met, I was immediately in awe and had so much respect for you, because you were like, if I can do a Joe impression, it was like, yeah, I'm 39, gonna be 40 next year. And, yeah, I want a baby. I've always wanted to be a mother, so I'm going to be one. I was like, well, all right. Like, I had never heard that before. Someone so clear on what they, like, you had that on your mind. That was something you were going to do. And I was curious on what your plan was to get there. Yeah. But I don't remember asking. Yeah.
I mean, hurry it up. Yeah.
Yeah. I just was so in awe. I was like, good for you. And I want details, but I didn't want to be rude and ask too many.
Because I was such an open book with everyone that I worked with. I'm like, okay, so this is my journey. So
yeah. But the way you talked about it was literally like, yeah, I'm going to have a baby because I need to. It was small talk. Like so people know when flight attendants are talking, we don't have a whole lot of time to like talk. It's usually until we get to the layover. So when you're kind of getting to know each other, or, oftentimes you're just meeting them for the first time, even though you've seen them around the airport. So there's always kind of like, some pleasantries. So the way Joe talked about it was as if I said, hey, row 12 needs more sugar. And you were like, yeah, okay, I'll bring them 5 packets and I'm going to have a baby by the time I'm 40. Okay, bye. It was so a matter of fact, you just were very clear on it. And I said, okay. I had so many questions. Like, so now I get to ask them, which one of them, now I do. So now I guess one of my first questions I wanted to ask you then was, what was 39 for you, leading up to 39? What was the significance of that year for you?
Well, there really wasn't no significance. It was just like, wow, I'm getting older. Biological clock is ticking. I said to myself, if I'm not pregnant by 40, I am not going to try anymore, because I don't want to be an old mom, even though I was kind of already, heading there.
Yeah,
wanting to be a mom.
Well, the thing is, once you get to 35, you think you hear that it's you're an older mom, but for you,
put that in your head.
Yeah, for you, 39 was, I'm getting up there.
Yeah, so I think that's what I told myself. It's like, what if I hit 40 and I'm not pregnant? I'm just gonna live my single best life, So that's why I was like, okay, I have to give it all. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I gave it my all. So I started taking relationships very seriously. I think around 37, 38, I was like, let me start taking these relationships, these guys more seriously. And maybe I can, get a relationship and have a baby together, the whole wonderful thing that everybody wants. But that didn't happen by the age of 38. And I was just like, okay, time is ticking. So I think around 38, I started asking ex-boyfriends for sperm. I started...
Wait, back up. Because it's an example of how you even told me that you wanted to have a baby. It was just, as a matter of fact, it's just that.
In each person that actually tried to help me give me free sperm, there were situations that happened with that. So one ex-boyfriend said no. The other ex-boyfriend said yes. He said no initially, but then he came back around.
He had some... Did he have some... Yeah, did he have some way, like, you can only have sperm if...
I wanted to do have sex with them pretty much and then get pregnant like that. And I was very specific and I was like, I just want your sperm. You don't need to be involved. I'm going to take care of this child on my own. I want sole responsibility for this child.
Right.
And so that ex-boyfriend said no initially, like I said, and then he came around and he said yes. And then we started having sex, and then I think we only tried for like 3 months and nothing was happening. So I was just like, okay, then. Also, I think we stopped because, in all honesty, I started having feelings again, and he is not partner material, boyfriend material, husband material.
I was going to ask if there was some feelings that would, on someone's end, it could be a way to kind of manipulate the situation and negotiate a little bit more out of it than just sperm.
Right, but I didn't want him in my life as a partner. I just he's a good guy, but he's just not partner material. So I just want his sperm.
So can you run down just, if there's anybody else out there that's as empowered to do the same thing, can you just give us a template of how that conversation goes? Like, so I'm the ex-boyfriend and you call.
I was like, so, hey, do you want to go have lunch? And then we went to have lunch.
Sure, Joe, I'd love to have lunch.
So we went out for lunch.
Okay, and then?
It was I haven't seen him in a while when we went out beforehand. And so we were just catching up about other stuff.
Do you order food first?
Yes, you got to warm them up. You can't just be like...
Okay.
Hey,
I need the detail.
To you for a while, but can I have those swimmers? So so we ate lunch and whatnot, and I was like, also, the real reason why I asked you here. And initially he said no because he was worried about how he would feel giving his sperm and not having part in this child's life. And then I said I will work with him if he wants to be part of the child's life. That's fine. But I want to raise a child. How I want to raise a child. It falls on me. And that's why he said no. But then he came back around and his reason was like, oh, I want to make you happy. He did have an awkward feeling the first time that we tried though, because he was like, man, if it happens, like, am I really like, how am I going to feel? So emotions were going through him. Like, I'm not going to be part of this child's life. I was like, if you want to be part of the child's life, of course, I'm not going to take that away. But I just need you to know that I will be 100% responsible for this child. I want to raise a child how I want to raise a child. I know it's kind of like, I don't know, selfish, but it's hard when raising a child, even with you're in a relationship with somebody else, because you think you're going to parent this way and you think you guys are in the same, page on this. And then when the child actually comes here, there's, tension, fighting because of how you want to do this. And I don't agree. So I didn't want to go through all that.
That's how a lot of relationships break up. Just, marriages have fallen apart from just having an idea of how you want to raise a kid and having totally different, perspectives on that.
Views, So, I knew all this because I've been around, relationships. I've been around people with kids, my, siblings, friends, and you see it. So so that was that. And then we tried, it didn't happen with him. That's not the father of my child.
I see. Okay. We're getting to the juicy
that
part.
Yes, I actually met the father of my child before asking the ex-boyfriends. I met the father of my child through work, and he just was very adamant about dating me. And I was just like, no, I'm not looking for a relationship. I want sperm. Do you want to give me sperm? I dead serious. That was like one of the first things I said. Very right to the point. And he's like, whoa. He thought I was joking around. I was like, no, I'm serious. I'm not here to look for love. I just want a baby. He goes, how about a date? And I said, you're not understanding what I'm saying. Yeah, we could get to know each other, of course, but
right.
I'm not trying to date you. And he's like, about a date, like at least a little, like, coffee date. I said, fine.
I mean, that's reasonable, Joe. Can I get a cup of coffee out of this?
But I just didn't want him to get the wrong impression that like I wanted.
That's so funny.
To have a relationship.
Yeah.
I'm looking
you were
for
being
a relationship.
clear.
Yes, exactly. And then so it took a while for me to go on an actual date with him. And then so we did, and then I guess we hit it off and we started hanging out. He was very adamant about not wanting kids. I said, I want kids. Just to let you know, if it happens, I will not be getting an abortion or anything like that. I'll be having my child.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want kids, maybe you should take precaution, or maybe you should just not have sex with me.
Right.
Simple as that, right?
Right.
And I got pregnant. I got pregnant 3 months
irony.
in.
The irony, especially because I didn't know about the one before that you had asked.
I got pregnant 3 months in.
Okay.
And then so what happened with this pregnancy is I miscarried. And then so I actually told him after I miscarried. And he was taken back. I felt really, I hated this feeling. I just felt bad because I know he didn't want a child, and here I am pregnant, and I didn't want that feeling. I remember I wanted the child, but I miscarried, and I was like, okay, it's not meant to happen like this. He doesn't want a child. I've told him once I had the miscarry, and I was just like, okay, then we just can't have sex anymore, because I don't want to feel that way, knowing that you don't want a child, and here I am, like, pregnant with your child. So I'm not going to have sex with you anymore. I did stop having sex with him. And I said I'm going to try other ways to get pregnant. So I can't be with you. Because, the last thing you need at 39
right.
is
last thing you need
sleeping with multiple people at one point. Be like, oh, who's the baby daddy? No,
right.
None of that. So that is when I started asking the ex-boyfriends and for their sperm. And that's when that situation happened. And at that time, I was barely speaking to the father of my child. So I was just getting frustrated with this. It just wasn't happening. Yeah. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? So my last resort was IVF. So what I did is I went to the clinic, and then I got my testing done. And the next step was to purchase sperm. But before I did that, the father of my child, it was his birthday. So what I did is I texted him happy birthday. The text happy birthday led to, hey, you're going to be here in the same city that I'm in. How about going for dinner and a movie for my birthday? That led to him coming over the hotel room. And yeah, so we conceived Zion that night.
No way, Joe.
Yes.
That is
and you know
crazy.
why I think, well, first of all, he already got me pregnant before, so I guess we know his swimmers are strong. But
because right.
Also think that it was because I was a lot less stressed about getting pregnant. Because I knew I was doing the IVF, I was just like,
right.
have fun and just have sex. And so I thought he would be more careful because he didn't want kids. And he wasn't. And I was okay with it. And
what was his reaction when you told him? How did you tell him that now you were pregnant?
I waited until, because of the first miscarriage, I waited till the pregnancy was viable. And I think it was just like, close to 2 months or so. And I told him, and he was a little shocked. He thought I wasn't, because he hasn't heard from me. And, his response was hurtful, which started off our relationship as parents in a bad foot. We live in different states, East Coast, West Coast. So it was already going to be hard for him to be part of, the whole journey of pregnancy. And we did talk, and he did want to be part of the child's life. And I was, wanting it as well, because you can say so many things before you're pregnant or whatnot, but when you're pregnant, those hormones, and you're just like, wait, no, I want you to be part of this child's life.
Right.
And, you just want, you want the child to feel the love of her father. And, it was hard for him to be there, for many reasons besides just being in the other side of the country. And then COVID happened. And then after COVID, he was all talk, no action. So
I see.
Yeah. So,
so now you're doing this alone for sure.
So
which is
ironic. Which is weird, because that's initially what I wanted.
I know.
Right.
Right.
It's weird. I feel like dumb complaining about it.
No, I think it's fair to, you went into this, like I said, from the time I met you, that is what you wanted. But then over time, I mean, it's real, you're human. I would expect that there are some feelings that maybe developed, like, he's not a bad guy. This is initially what I want. I wanted something, different, but maybe I can reconsider and open up to the possibility of something else. But then apparently, from what you're saying, by his actions and his words not matching, you ended up back to square one of what you wanted, and you got a beautiful baby girl out of it.
Yes, it's amazing. I just want her not to feel any void, because then you start thinking about, like, the father issues, the father's not involved and all that thing. So I want to try my hardest, even if her dad wants to come in later and be like, okay, I want to be part of her life now. Like, I will welcome that. Like, I want you to be part of the life. I just don't like that whole, yes, I'll be, no, I'll be, yes, I'll be, like, in and out situation.
Right.
I need consistency, as every child needs, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm still hopeful
every child needs some
consistency. That will happen. Yeah. But I'm 100% single mama over here.
And how is
trying
that?
To make it happen.
So, well, no, you're making it happen. I always try to remove try out of my language too, because you're doing it. You know what I mean? You are doing it. So now now we know that, from the beginning of our chat, that this whole issue with COVID happened. Zion gets born, and literally, C-section, 6 months, born at 6 months. You were out for 10 days and didn't get to meet your child for 10 days, right?
No, it was COVID. The NICU was in lockdown. Just because I came out of coma, I was not at all. I was completely out of it. I had to relearn how to walk, because you lose all your muscle when you're laying in a bed. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks, and so I had to relearn everything.
And that was purely because of COVID, or
purely because of COVID,
because of the effects that it had on your health and your breathing and all of that, and being intubated for that long.
Correct. Yeah, I was at the hospital, right? Mind you, it's COVID, so not a lot of people could come in your room. Mm-hmm. So when I say the postpartum care was really pushed aside, and then so my C-section, it was just like, I don't know. I felt like even getting cleaned if I went on myself was hard because people couldn't come into your room as much for their protection. And I get it. So pretty much a lot of the care besides COVID was pushed aside. And there was one point that they came and they cleaned me down there while I was in the hospital, and they were looking at my wound and all, and they were looking at, the nurses just started looking at each other. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And they're like, one of the nurses says, she's like, well, I'm not taking that out because it looks big. And then the other one was like, yeah, she might hemorrhage. Like, and I was like, oh, mind you, I can't talk because once you're intubated and they take you, like, you're just like, you can't for a bit. And then I was like, oh my God, what's going on? They were like, we have to call the other doctor. The doctor in, just give us a second. And then, so the doctor came, she looked at me down there and she was just like, okay. She goes, you have a lot of blood clots. I'm going to physically have to go in there and take them out. Let me tell you, I didn't birth a child vaginally, but the woman taking both of her hands, putting them inside of my vajayjay while the nurses press my belly down and massage it down, trying to get those blood clots out. While I have a C-section, girl, I was in such pain. Joe. I was just like, oh my God. I felt like, I don't know. I felt like this should have been like a scene from Handmaid's Tale. Have you ever seen Handmaid's Tale?
Yes. I love that you can even joke about this right now because,
because it passed. I lived it. It's gone.
Yeah. It's just so, it's just so much that you had to deal with. So when did you get to finally see Zion and hold Zion?
Well, after I was discharged, I went home and at my sister's house under her care. They were taking care of me. And I was able to see Zion through a webcam that they had in the NICU. So they had a little camera on top of the incubator, and I could just log in and see her anytime. And I can call the nurses at any time. I saw her once at the hospital, once through the webcam and once through a picture. Because once I came out of the coma, the nurses actually gave me a picture of her. And I actually pushed it away. I was not emotionally ready for it at all. And when I was in the hospital, after I was getting a little better, I was just like, when am I going to go to the maternity ward? I want to go to the maternity ward. I want to go to the maternity ward. They actually lied to me. They were like, okay, yeah, we're gonna take you to the maternity ward. And I was so excited, and I was just like pushing myself to actually be able to open a bottle of water, able to feed myself. And there was one point that everybody was busy. Nobody was paying attention to me. And I was like, I want to get up. So I was trying real hard, pushing, because at this moment I didn't have that much upper body strength, but I couldn't really move my feet at all, my legs at all.
Your mama, your mama, that lioness mama instinct was like, I want to see my baby. So you found all kinds of strength that you didn't even have before.
Girl, I was trying to get up, and the nurse saw me, and she was like, "What are you doing?" They were screaming at me because, like, you're gonna hurt yourself. And she's right. I would have just fell flat on my face. But I wanted to get out. I wanted to go to maternity ward. They were like, "Yeah, we're gonna transfer you tonight." And then when they transferred me, girl, they didn't transfer me to a maternity ward. They transferred me to the COVID recovery room, like floor, whatever it was. I was so sad. I was crying and crying and crying. And they were like, well, you can't go because the NICU was on lockdown and you're still recovering from COVID and da-da-da-da-da. So when I saw her once in the webcam in the recovery floor. And then when I went home, I was discharged. I couldn't see her. I couldn't log into the webcam.
So how long did it take for you to be discharged?
After I got discharged, it took me like about 2 days or something like that, 2 to 3 days to see her, the webcam. My sister actually helped me. She logged me in. She was like, she can feel you through, and just telling me that she needs me to see her. And I was like, okay. But it was hard. Mm-hmm. Ooh, I don't want to talk about that because I will start tearing up.
I just started tearing up.
Yeah, that part was really hard. Doesn't matter everything else, but that part, just looking at my child, just so sick, and not being able to be there. That was the hardest part.
What your sister said about she just needs you to see her. She can still
Mm-hmm.
that.
That was hard.
I cannot imagine. I'm so sorry.
But it's okay. She's healthy now.
Yeah, no, I was about to say is like you got your girl, but I mean this reunion. Now we want to talk about the reunion. What was that like when you got to hold this miracle, this baby?
Yes. So she was born April 1st. I was discharged from the hospital April 16th, and I was able to see her by the end of May. I was able to see her. I was really pushing myself to walk. I was like, I'm walking every day, like back and forth in the room with the walker and just getting stronger. I was like, oh, I can walk on my own. And, I went to the hospital. My sister went with me, but because of COVID, she couldn't come up with me, only myself. In the room, it seems like when you don't have a long way to walk, it feels like you can walk quickly, way quicker than you think. Mm-hmm. And then you go to like a big space and I'm just like, oh my God, I can't really walk still.
How much further do I have to go?
Yeah, they were like, do you need a wheelchair? I was like, no, I don't need a wheelchair. So I took the elevator up and I'm walking. I was like, I think I need a wheelchair. So they got me a wheelchair. Then they brought me to her room. Zion had her own room because they had to treat her like she had COVID because she came from a COVID mom, but she didn't. She was born with no COVID. I wasn't able to hold her. I was just able to see her through the NICU because she was feeling a little too ill that day and they didn't want to disturb her. So I wasn't able to hold her. So I had to wait for the next week. I was only able to see her once a week because the NICU was only open from a few hours in the day. And at the time I was staying in Connecticut under my sister's care, and Zion was all the way in Jersey. And so she could only take me once a week, which I'm so grateful for, for her being able to drive me back and forth. So we would drive to the hospital. I would have to get tested every week to be able to see Zion.
Yeah, to make sure you're more than willing. You'd take 10 tests to go see her at this point. I mean,
oh my God, yes. Yeah. And then I think when they stopped the testing, I was like, why? I was so paranoid. I was like, no, people should still get tested.
Keep the baby safe. What are you talking about?
Yeah, my poor baby. She was in the NICU and mind you, like in the NICU, I wasn't able to stay with her. It was only visits. And she was and I couldn't even bring her a little stuffed toy or her clothes. They didn't let me bring anything in. And she was there for about 3 months. And then they transferred her over to the Children's Rehabilitation Hospital right next door, which I was so ecstatic because I was able to stay with her there. So I was like, oh my God, yes.
The first time you were able to hold your heart
So the
personified.
First time I was able to hold her, it was the second NICU visit, which was frightening, and I was just overwhelmed with emotion. I was frightened because she was just attached to so many tubes, and it was hard. It was a process of getting her out of the NICU into my arms. I had to be up next to the NICU, and just to see her in all those tubes, and you can hardly see her face because all these tubes are covering her face and in her mouth, and it was hard. It was very, very hard. And I remember one of her hands was so swollen. She had an IV right here, and it was just so hard to see your child like that, So just crying. So that was the first time I was able to hold her, and After that, I would hold her every time I would go there. You know, they had to help me bring her. I wouldn't bring her out. They would bring her out to me. But the day that she got transferred over to the children's hospital, I was there when she graduated, and
her first graduation ceremony.
Yeah. So in the children's hospital, I cried so much because that was the first time I was actually able to hold her without any gloves or any, you know, the gowns, any protective cover. Like, I was able to touch her skin, to feel her. That was just like, I was like, ugh. Because everybody tells you, especially the NICU baby, like preemie babies, how important it is to get skin to skin.
Mm-hmm.
I was not able to do that for her at all. Because COVID messed everything up.
Right, COVID. Oh, COVID. But I'm sure you have been making up for that fact every single day. So tell us about Zion now.
Zion is a full-blown toddler right now. Throwing tantrums, and she's learned a new dance right now. Shake your booty. You just say shake your booty, and she shakes her booty. This is her shaking her booty. She goes up and down.
Oh, right. It's a modest one. It's modest. I like it.
Yeah,
Aww.
Looking over her shoulder, going up and down.
Oh,
it's so cute. She's the cutest thing. I like a lot of. We do a lot of little mommy and me matchy clothes photo shoots. You know, if you see my Instagram or her Instagram, I love dressing her and taking pictures.
I love watching your Instagram. It's great to see her grow up into like just, you know, a normal baby girl, especially knowing her journey to us and to you. So it's just so nice
I think
to see
that's
her
the first year that was like, I guess, the most scariest thing, because with preemies there's complications, right?
Yeah.
So she left almost close to 5 months. She left the hospital, and she just got out of oxygen when they discharged her. Wow. And they gave me extra oxygen just in case, you know, she needed some at home, but she went home with a feeding tube. So she's always had feeding issues for a long time. Even after the feeding tube, just slower in that field. And then she had a PDA opening in the heart, so they had to go in, and then they had to close it. When that happened, I think that really hit hard, because I was just like, this girl's been through so much already. Like, what more?
But she's gonna be so fierce. Like, it's a given being your daughter, one, and then knowing, I mean, she came out fighting. You both like fought for your lives. You know what I mean? And like, so I have no doubt. Sure did. And I just want to, on behalf of all preemies out there, because I too was a preemie. I was born at 7 months and was 3 pounds. Except I did not have a feeding issue, because those Haitians were like, we're going to force feed this baby to these 5 pounds. Whatever these pounds need to be for this baby to be discharged, we are giving it as much as we can. I mean, and to the point, by the time I got home, for the first few months home, I gained so much weight that you would not have thought that I was a round little dumpling. Oh my goodness. But if I was a preemie in 78, I have hope that preemies in this time frame should get all the care. We've just come, so far in medicine that I would hope. Thank God, right?
Yeah.
What I loved about your story, and especially knowing you and being so happy for you, so many people, there was a community, I feel. I don't know if you felt that way. I should ask how you felt.
Yes.
Because it looked like from the outside, people were taking care of my girl, and I, could help you from afar, even though I couldn't get to Connecticut. Just watching how the whole world seemed to just rally around you guys. Because once your story got viral, it was just an influx of here, what do you need? We're praying for you. We're thinking
Oh
about
my
you.
goodness. Yeah.
How was that? What did that feel like to go from, Joe from the block, right? to that.
Yeah, it's, you feel loved. You feel so loved. I felt so loved. I was like, wow, I just can't believe the power. First of all, when I came out, everyone was telling me how much they were praying for me and Zion, and how they had prayer circles. And now I think a lot of prayer circles have started because of the pandemic as well. Everybody it was just a scary time in the beginning as well. You're just like, I don't know. I'm not a religious person, but you resort to prayer, I guess, right? When things are tough.
Can't hurt, right? Whether you are religious or not, just the thought that just to know that people are thinking of you and doing whatever they feel is necessary to support you and to give you that strength and love from afar. That's got to feel good, no matter what.
I mean, the power of prayer, the power of community, it is unbelievable, and I just felt so loved. I felt just held, like everybody was holding me when I needed it the most, and Zion and I, and all of that energy towards us, is what lifted us up, of course, lifted us up, and I was just so thankful.
Yeah, no, I'm just so glad to see you through the other side. It's just, and I just see nothing but amazing things for Zion. A kid doesn't come into that much turmoil and the world like that and not be an absolute warrior. You know what I mean? Like, and like I said, the apple.
I hope I can handle her. That's what I'm like.
That remains to be seen. But the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So, I'm really happy to hear it. This episode is dedicated to all the single rock stars who are finding themselves at a mature age and longing to meet their babies. Joe's story is a reminder that there are many roads to motherhood, and one path doesn't make you more of a mother. Remember that your road to baby is the right one for you. Thanks again for listening today, and don't forget, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, New Mommy at 40. We'll see you next week.